The shiny floors.
Yeah, we
It's
noticed.
shiny and
It's got the new car.
it smells
Good
good.
evening, and welcome to the Board of Selectmen meeting for October 21st, 2013. Let's begin, as usual, with the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Where's our flag?
They moved.
And we got a picture of a flag.
Oh,
Well,
Don, you got a flag pin on, Don?
All
All right, well, pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you,
Mike, note
Selectman
yourself.
Trapani,
Flag
for that
badge.
innovative approach.
Missing our flag.
Okay, so we will start this evening with some public hearings. And as is typical, Mike will guide me on the magic words that must be spoken to move things along here.
just need a motion to open the public hearing.
So I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
And sorry, this is for,
Four.
this is to, who it's for, the 7 PM.
Chairman, I move that we open the public hearing for Georgetown Liquors change of manager to the transfer license.
Second.
Okay, questions?
this is on the, oh,
Yes, questions before the vote. There's a motion
vote
and a
though, do
second.
we made a motion and a second to open the hearing. Do we vote to open the hearing?
Well, you asked, since it's a
We didn't
public
take the
hearing,
vote.
you asked input from the public, or I'd start with
Do we need a vote to open
the
it?
applicant.
Yes, you need a vote.
We
to
need a
open.
vote, right?
Oh,
That's why I was just asking if there's any discussion
Yeah.
before we voted
Oh,
on it.
okay.
I've learned a thing or two in the past few months. Any discussion on the vote? Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
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 And, Mr. Chairman, I withdraw my second on the original motion that just said we're gonna open a public hearing.
Thank you for your withdrawal. Okay. So now we can take input from the audience? So
Well, I'd start with the applicant.
Yeah.
okay, thank you.
If anyone speaks, if they could just give their name and address.
Okay, great. So we can start with the applicant, Georgetown Liquors. Dana? You could just do name and address, please.
Yep. Dana DiLorenzo, business at 103 East Main Street. My residence is 160 High Street in Kennebunk.
Excellent. And this is for a transfer of license, correct?
Yes, from my father to myself.
All right, excellent. Okay, any comments or things you want to put out there? It seems pretty straightforward, right?
Yeah, it's just we incorporated. That was about the only thing.
Okay, great. Any comments from the board?
I have a quick question, Mr. Chairman, directed towards Jen. All the paperwork is in order?
Yes.
Proper paperwork,
And
everything?
this had gone in, there were some issues with paperwork, so we had a little back and forth with the ABCC on it. and
Okay.
The ACBCC, I think, is all set with everything that we have now.
Right. And no issues, track record's been good, no issues to speak of, no violations?
You haven't had any complaints?
Okay.
Anyone else on the board?
Yes. This is now, Dana, you were here shortly ago, so this is, you've changed your.
What the ABCC wanted was us to incorporate.
Okay,
So all we did was just take Georgetown Building Supply, Georgetown Liquors, and do Georgetown Liquors, Inc. It was
Okay.
virtually a change of name.
I did have a couple questions on some of the description of premises didn't seem to be filled out on question 7 on the beginning. I mean, there's no square footage there or an occupancy number. I know you wouldn't have seating. Is this something that's not required because this is
It was filed with the ABC. See, they wanted a floor plan of what we had.
yeah. You've got a description of it, but I guess you just got no square footage I mean, the occupancy number would be the street number, I take it?
Yes, 103.
So that shouldn't
Correct, sir.
even, that shouldn't be on our application here, or?
Description, they usually are just looking for, how many entrances, exits,
Yep.
and, how many rooms, which I think he has 2 rooms, 1 sales room, 1
Yeah,
stock room,
he's
2
got all that
entrances and
filled
3
out. It's
exits.
just the square, there's no square footage and,
Oh, yeah, number,
in
well, he
the
has number.
occupancy number. I mean, I don't want things to get held up later, that's why but you say this has happened evidently before for you.
Yeah, I can check in their past ones and see if you have anything filled out on the past.
Like I said, this was just a change of name.
Yeah,
And then if you go flip that over to 14, it looks like, now this looks more like the form to me. It looks like there's only 3 places to mark off where there's, 2 places to mark off where there's 3 questions. And they don't, because it's got here, it looks like question 2, a majority of directors, Massachusetts residences. You get that down, no, that, because you're not, correct?
Correct.
Then there's a question about US citizens, but there's not even a block there. So that's what I'm saying, there's 3,
and number 14,
yeah.
the 1 and 2? Oh, I see 1, 2.
There's 1 and 2, then there's B, section B, there's only, there's 3 questions, but only 2 blocks.
We can add 1 in if we need to, and the
I
form
mean,
comes
this
off
form
the
comes from
ABC.
them, right?
Yes, it's from the ABCC website, yeah,
And this is an ABCC form, right?
yes.
So whether we say yes or no, ABC ultimately is gonna look at this paperwork and say yes or no. So, but your points are valid, you don't want them to be held up and you're pointing them out. So, for us though, it's not an issue. For the ABCC, it could be an issue, so you're saying.
Yeah, we don't want them to send it back for missing information, but they don't have a block for it on their phone, so
Yeah, that's odd.
odd.
You can say you checked it in white pen.
That's right.
Okay?
That's about it, other than I think I had asked a question, I noticed that you're changing your manager, that's also a change from earlier.
Yes, it was my father, and now it's myself.
You know, there was you got a Lisa Burke replacing a,
Correct.
yeah,
Idiot.
so that's, I mean, you gave it to us, so there must be a reason why you gave it to us. And she's going to be the manager of, the license is in your name, but she's gonna be manager.
Correct.
Okay. Like I say, I would check on that, whether you need that stuff in there under question 7, and whether you, there's
I
3
can check
questions.
before it goes to
Yeah.
ABCC.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good, thank you. Any other comments from the board? Okay, I'll open it up to the public for any comments or questions. Where is it, a public hearing? Going once, okay. Great, so,
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we close the public hearing on the license transfer on Georgetown Liquors, Inc.
the motion, is there a second? Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Now, do we have to approve something beyond that?
We have to
Transfer.
approve the-
The transfer.
Approve the transfer, okay.
Mr. Chairman, I make the motion that we approve the transfer of Georgetown Liquors, Inc. Change of manager from your father's first name, Dana, I'm sorry. I missed-
John.
John B. Di Lorenzo to Dana J. Di Lorenzo as presented.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second, any discussion?
Is that the way we want it? Because if, you're the owner on the license, but the manager is
Excuse me, I'll retract that, manager, owner, sorry. Owner transfer, not manager, so I said that wrong. You're right, Gary, because the manager's Lisa. Yeah, so I'll say, instead of manager, owner. Sorry about that.
Okay, we need to amend the motion.
You will amend it.
Dave, just amend the motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to amend the original motion to change from the word manager to owner.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, so now we're back to the,
Now back to our original motion. Any more discussion on that? All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Great, unanimous. Thank you. Thank you, Dana.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Dana.
Okay. Even though we're posted 7:15, can we open the other, early, or do we wait? I can tell by your face we're gonna wait.
Should wait.
Okay,
Let's
so
approve the minutes.
let's do some minutes while we're waiting.
Chair, I move that we approve the minutes for the executive session held on September 23rd, 2013.
Second.
Motion and a second, any discussion?
Yes. I believe that this is down there as opening at 6 and closing at 6:55, but I believe that this was on the tail, this special, executive session was on the tail end of our meeting. The meeting earlier was on another subject.
I can't remember.
I gotta
So,
defer to Janet on that one.
I don't know, I wasn't here.
I did the
Okay.
minutes.
Mike did the minutes.
No, this was first.
No,
I'm almost positive because there was another thing on the agenda and I wanted to make sure that this did not get shorted, so I was gonna, if I remember right.
I believe this was at the tail end of our meeting that night, and Mike brought it up to us, and we had an executive session on the end. I didn't see it on the agenda for the 23rd, but I do remember a meeting where we had an executive session. I've got my notes on the 23rd, and we didn't go into executive session until 6:40, and Phil wasn't there, and it was on another subject.
Oh, so you're saying this was not the right?
The timing isn't right. We had
Okay.
this meeting, but it was at the end of our regular meeting, not
Another set of
the
minutes.
beginning.
I think it was only that one that
Mike wasn't, and, you know, this is, it's got Mike down as present. Mike wasn't at the first meeting.
Oh, you know what, I'm sorry, I was thinking of another settlement we did. So, right, Mike, wasn't this at the end where you said you needed our attention?
Yeah.
Yes, I had.
Executive session was at 6:30. I have it right here. Attaches the agenda and packet for Monday, September 23rd. There'll be an
That was
executive session at 6:30 PM.
Yes,
The
yes.
general at 7.
That was a different topic.
This was a MIA settlement, workers' comp settlement.
Do we do that after?
And we did it after because, right, so do we do this session before?
We did it at the end of the meeting, right?
We did it,
If we just,
like
I
Gary
guess
if we
said.
got the times right, if we change the time to the end of the meeting and that, I think all of these will be fine.
Did we do the minutes for that 6:30 session that we had before? I think I emailed you those notes, because I think it was just the selectmen in the room.
Yeah, just look when we get, I can look it up.
Let me
We
double
haven't
check,
done
'cause
them
that's what was
before.
showing me, Gary, because you're right, because I was thinking it was that topic before, so.
So we can just change the time on this?
Yeah,
Amend the
I
time?
just, this was in the
Template.
template, and I
Right.
didn't change the,
Does anybody remember the time we went to?
Yeah, we'd have to look at the regular minutes when we ended.
23rd.
We haven't got those minutes yet, so.
I have the time when we ended though. We adjourned at 8:30 on the 23rd.
So they would have been at 8:30.
That's when we started. I don't know when we ended. We weren't there too long on this.
We don't have to have the, I mean, it doesn't have to have the ending time. It's just correct time.
So we're gonna change it to,
Mr. Chair, I move that, I amend my motion from 6 PM to 8:30 PM.
and,
We'll change the recess.
And change the recess time to
remove it.
remove the recess time.
Okay, motion for an amendment.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, now back to the motion with the minutes. Any more discussion? Do we cover what we need to cover? Great. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you, Gary, for catching that.
Gary, I don't know, how you
Opposed?
got such a good memory, because, man, whatever you're eating, I want some.
It's the hot sauce.
The hot sauce.
Must be.
Okay, now we can do our next public hearing.
Chair, I move that we open the public hearing meeting for the all-alcohol license transfer for Coach's Locker LLC to Clifford I'm not gonna pronounce this right, but I'll try. Eula LLC DBA Par 97.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. Can we have the applicant come up? Hi, how are you? If we could just get name and address, we'd appreciate it.
Yep, Martin Arsenault, attorney for the applicants, and my address is 939 Salem Street, Groveland, Mass. And this is Terrence Clifford, the proposed manager and applicant on the license.
Great, thank you.
How you doing, gentlemen?
Good.
Okay, again, maybe just a quick summary of what we're trying to do here.
Certainly. The applicants are seeking transfer of the all-alcohol restaurant license that's available at 206 West Main Street. It was previously Coach's Locker Room, as the board knows. The business has been closed for several months. The applicant acquired the assets of the business in an arm's-length transaction, and as part of that transaction, paid all past due municipal charges and taxes. So he's brought everything current, brought all the meals taxes current, paid all of the vendors. So all of the past debts of the business have been cleared up at this point. The applicant is an experienced restaurateur, currently operates Cafe 97 and Pub 97, both located nearby in Groveland. In the 7 years that he's operated Pub 97, the police have never been to the premises. There have never been any complaints of violation at the premises, no noise complaints from any of the neighbors. He takes the operation of his business very seriously and the service of the alcohol very seriously. The applicants are comprised of Terry Clifford, who's with me today, his son Brandon, and Linda Eula, who are located in the back row here. Brandon also operates Pub 97 and Cafe 97 with his father. Both Brandon and Terry have bartender's certificates, as well as serve-safe certificates related to the operation of the restaurant portion of their existing businesses. Linda is a mature person. She's currently a manager for, a regional manager for 7-Eleven convenience stores. The current operation, Pub 97, has been very successful, and as you've probably seen on the billboard, was recently named a Phantom Gourmet Grade 8. So his success as a restaurateur, I think, is pretty well established. All of the staff at the new facility will be provided with TIPS training. As you probably noticed, they've already started cleaning up the premises. They had the parking lot seal coated and relined. They've done some landscaping there and will continue to try and improve the premises going forward. The total seats in the restaurant are anticipated to be 95 in total, 25 seats at the bar, 40 seats in the main dining room. I don't know if the board's familiar with the interior of the restaurant. 6 seats at the high top tables in the bar area, and 28 seats in what we hope to install, which will be golf simulators at the location. The business will include 7 state-of-the-art golf simulation booths in the front area of the building, you know, that long, narrow room as you come in, which is actually a very good use of that space. It's anticipated people will book by the hour. They'll book tee times to play golf indoors in the wintertime. Also on rainy days, they'd like to offer rainy day tee times for people who are missing out on their regularly booked tee time at local golf places, and as well as offering the service to local golf pros to teach lessons indoors in the wintertime. Similar devices that we know about locally are located in Middleton, and there's also a facility at in Atkinson, New Hampshire at the Atkinson's Country Club. We've also submitted, in connection with the liquor license transfer, an application for an entertainment license, including 8 devices, 7 simulators, and a jukebox, and that's also before the board tonight. We intend to open the business on the premises under the name of Par 97. If the Commonwealth will allow, he also intends to have Keno on the premises. The applicant intends to operate 7 days a week. The normal hours of operation he anticipates to be between 10 a.m. and midnight, unless there's a Red Sox game on or something that goes later than that, in which case he'd stay open a little later to allow the patrons to continue to watch the game. I'm told that the current license on the premises is for 8 a.m. to 1 a.m. We'd like to hold those hours. He's interested in the earlier hours in case he has people who want to book a tea time to play golf early in the day. It's a little bit different business model because of that entertainment device that's on the premises. And he's also aware of the fact that you will allow liquor licenses for 10 a.m. on Sundays. If that was possible, we'd like to have that as part of the allowance of the transfer of the license. The facility will be a full-service restaurant. The menu is still being worked out, but we anticipate it to be a pub menu in keeping with the golf piece of it. He does not want a live entertainment license in connection with this. I know there was problems with the last operators there with noise complaints from the neighbors. He doesn't want any part of that. As I said, with his other location, he's never had any noise complaints. He's a very responsible operator. I think the board should grant the transfer to allow an experienced operator to go in there and reopen the restaurant. And it's certainly within the public, it's within the public need in light of the fact that you only really have one full-service restaurant in town right now, Kean's at the Black Cow. So we'd be willing to answer any questions that the board might have.
Great. Just to confirm, Janet, does our paperwork line up with everything being paid that needs to be paid and all that in order?
Yes,
Great.
there were some outstanding, and
Personal property
yeah,
tax.
that was taken care of last week on Thursday, so everything's up to date.
Great. And I'll just say, I've enjoyed Pub 97, Cafe 97, so I'm excited to see what you can do here. I know what a really great job you've done in the other establishments. So with that, I'm just going to open it up to the board if they have any comments or questions.
I have a couple of quick questions, Mr. Chairman. The lease is a letter of intent that'll turn into a full-blown lease was it contingent upon the license being transferred?
That was one of the contingencies as well, and we're working out the language on that. We don't anticipate there's going to be any impediment to a long-term lease.
So not going to own the property, or is there an option, will there be an option in the lease to purchase the property?
That's the option that I'm going for with the landlord at the moment, yes.
Yeah, I think that's a good move.
Yeah.
Personally, just speaking for myself, I'd like to see somebody local own that building.
That's my ultimate goal, and that's why I hope when we have the 6-month option now,
Sorry, yeah.
and I hope in the next week that we'll have this ironed out with that purchase
Yeah, good.
in there.
The other question I had was, or comment I had was, that's a big parking lot, and not only did we get noise complaints from the bands, it was more, we also got complaints of people in the parking lot being very loud and leaving there. So just as a point of reference, to let you know that was one of the issues, not just the loud bands, it was people congregating, and when they were leaving, they were making some noise, and, you know.
I think that all coordinates with the live band following.
Right.
You know, this way you're not gonna have groups of people leaving at one time.
Mhm.
You'll have people staggering out like they do at Pub 97,
Yep.
so you won't have that.
Okay.
And plus, we won't be open the hours that they were open.
Mhm.
Like, they stayed open till 1 a.m.
Right. So your intent is to close generally at midnight, and then if.
We're
you
gonna
have to
test
stay-
the waters,
Okay.
and if the waters seem to, like when we first opened Pub 97, our licenses were similar. We could stay open till midnight, 1 a.m. on Friday and Saturday.
Mhm.
We did test the water for 1 year. We went back to, now we close 8 o'clock on Sundays,
Yeah.
10 o'clock on
Yeah,
Monday and
I rode by last
Tuesdays.
night, you were closed.
It's what it calls for.
Yeah.
I mean, at this location, I really probably anticipate we'll probably be closed by 11. That's what I really believe is gonna happen.
Mhm.
After a few months being in there, we'll see how it rolls. But that's what I'm gonna guess.
And my other question might be a Janet and Mike question. The 10 a.m. on Sundays, were we allowing coaches to do that?
No, they didn't,
They didn't apply for
they
it.
didn't apply for that.
Okay.
We-
Keon's,
Yeah, we
Yeah,
adjusted we adopted the law to allow that, but Keon's did,
Right.
but
So-
coaches didn't.
So is it, because I don't want this to bounce when it goes, I know there was a lot of discussion, or there was some back and forth between us and the state about times on weekends when you could allow serving to begin. Do we have the discretion to say 10 o'clock is too early and we want noon, or can we set that guideline? Because to me, if this is a direct transfer, wouldn't the same restrictions apply as far as time.
What I would
We would
suggest
have
is.
to amend the
Yeah,
liquor license once
let's
we
do
vote.
let's do the hearing on the direct transfer, right? Because I think the amendment is a different, separate issue, right, that has to happen?
Well, are they asking for the 10 o'clock hour?
Yeah.
In this license?
Oh, it's in the amendment, okay,
Yeah.
it's in that, okay.
Yeah,
So then it couldn't, would
Because
it
it's more
really
of
be
the
a transfer?
then.
Because if we're transferring what exists now, what are the hours, do we know what the hours are now?
yes. Looked it up today. The hours are 8 AM to 1 AM, Monday through Saturday, and 12 noon to 1 AM on Sunday.
Right.
But the selectmen do set the hours.
Right, okay,
So
so my question.
ABCC really doesn't look at that except if they're like hours on Sunday, before allow what they allow for hours.
Right.
So my question was, do we transfer it first and then do the
Then talk
amendment
about
to the
amending it,
hour
right.
second? Or do we do it all in one piece? Because to Dave's point, then it's not a transfer.
Because to me, that's not a transfer. A transfer is you take what's existing, and then we can modify it afterwards. So, if we so choose.
It's really just, this is just figuring out for us to figure out the right way to do this,
Right.
the right way to discuss it, so give us a minute here, we'll figure it out.
So while you're figuring that out, I had a couple more.
I don't
more
believe the
questions
hours
about
are on there at all.
the Sunday
I
issue.
don't think they.
I think the reasoning for the other applicant, the other restaurant, was they had brunches and, wedding showers early in the morning, bridal showers and stuff like that. If it's 10 o'clock on a Sunday, what's the intent there? I mean, do you really think there's a need for that?
The intent would be that if you have early morning golfers,
Mhm.
that they would like to have a beverage.
Mhm.
So that would be like a Bloody Mary, something like that. And then we would also offer some type of breakfast sandwich, some kind of breakfast menu to go along with that. Because from what I understand from the hours, on a Monday through Saturday, we could actually serve at 8 AM, correct?
Right.
So what we're gonna offer, if we choose to go that direction, and we aren't sure we are gonna go that direction, we're not going to start with, but if it follows that path that is needed, we'll have a breakfast menu to go along with the 8 AM opening.
Okay. That's good to hear. You're gonna feed people too.
Oh, yes, absolutely, you have to.
Mike, I didn't read in here that the hours, did you see it?
No,
I
there
just
are
didn't
no
see that.
hours.
Yeah, I don't see hours in here either.
So I don't know,
Since I think it is a separate issue, and it should be a separate agenda item as well.
Well, then what would make sense, Mr. Chair, if we just go ahead and did and voted on the transfer of the liquor license and then talked about and debated on the amendment? The question is do we need that as a separate public hearing? An amendment to a liquor license? Which I think you might.
Yes. We had a separate public hearing for Keon's.
Right.
So we need to do the transfer tonight,
That's the only thing that's on
and
the
then
agenda.
repost for the 10 AM, two-step process.
Mhm.
But not even 10 AM, just to establish the hours, period. Because we're just doing a plain old transfer, right?
No, we're transferring the current hours, or the
The
current license.
With the current hours,
Right,
okay.
and
But
this
that's,
would
I
just
wanna
be
get
to
that
amend
straight, 'cause,
Sunday.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
They
Okay.
are coming back on November 4th for the common victular license.
Correct.
So we could do it at
That'd
that.
be
Be a good time to
Okay.
do it, yeah.
Okay.
We're delaying that just because we don't think the restaurant's ready to, it's been closed and we want it to be correct for inspection by the Board of Health and so forth.
Okay, so let's focus on the transfer at the current hours right now, which is on the agenda. And I'll continue with any other selectmen comments before I open up to public. I'm looking at you.
Yeah, okay. On number 12, previous held interest in other licenses, you've got down a no, although you're saying that you, and it's right in here on others, that you do have another pub, so. would that
That would be in our town, right?
That's what I thought.
Specifically for our town?
For your town.
Yes,
Okay. I'm, it's another town, I mean, it's a state license, so another,
Well, if you read that, it says, which is not presently held.
yes.
It's not, this license isn't presently held.
The license that he has on Pub 97, he still holds that license.
Yeah, it's on the previous page, Gary, if you look at.
Right, so the,
Page 11, he answers the questions there.
correct.
Okay, which is not,
And number 11, interest in current
Okay.
licenses, and then number
Okay.
12 is interest in prior licenses. So if you had a prior license, I would think that would be of interest to
Okay,
the
I see what you're
ABCC
saying.
in case you had
Okay.
violations at that
all right,
premises or
thank you.
complaints, yeah.
And then on number 20, you don't feel with what you're doing, any major remodeling or redecoration will need to be done?
There's nothing major. I
Okay,
mean, I did speak with the building inspector, walked through with him last Thursday to show him a couple of things that we were gonna do, and he had no issue with it.
okay.
What we're doing more than anything is downsizing the restaurant from 200 and some odd capacity down to under 100.
I guess that's, yeah, I'm just thinking to put these these is something that they go in place and that's it.
Okay, what we're doing is we do have to put up a couple divider walls,
Yeah,
but we're not having to demolish, take any walls out. We're actually adding if anybody's familiar with the place, when you walk in that whole area where it had the booths to your right, the long area which Martin was talking about earlier, is where we were gonna put a divider wall there and half walls in the back two rooms. That's pretty much it.
but John, our building inspector felt that,
Oh, yeah, I walked him
Okay.
through it, and he was good with everything.
okay,
And that permit will be pulled next week when the contractor starts to do it.
so if you are pulling a permit, should then that be,
Yeah, I
That-
agree with you, Gary.
Hmm?
Maybe you should put a little description in number 20 on what the remodeling.
yeah, if you are having to
Just
pull
to
a
cover
permit?
yourself.
Well, anytime you do something in any town, you have to pull a permit if you're gonna do anything, so. But it's
Well,
not
that-
major, it's not major construction.
Well, it doesn't really say major
Rem-
construction, it
remodeled,
just says
constructed in any way.
remodeled, redecorated.
2 sentences will be
Yes.
perfect.
How do
Very
we go
simple.
about inserting that? We'd be happy to do that before the
I have the
application.
Yeah, that's the original, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, we'd
just-
be happy to describe that work before it goes to the ABCC.
just
Putting
two-
up two to three drywall walls, and
Yeah.
very simple.
That's what we're doing.
This way it covers you,
Yeah.
in case there's any issues.
So if we approve this, would we want to approve it that number 20 is going to be changed, or?
Yeah, well, I think so, when we get there, we'll put that as part of the motion.
That's fine. And again, because we're gonna inspect it through our building process, I mean, that's the more important aspect of this, so. Will the video games still be there as part of this?
They're gone already,
So the video games are already gone?
gone.
I'll break the news to my kids,
Not a loss. Sorry.
that's all right. They'll enjoy the golf, I'm sure, too. Okay, Bill, anything, or?
First of all, thank you for your interest in wanting to open a business in Georgetown. We really appreciate it. It's, hopefully you'll hire some staff in here from Georgetown as well, or at least consider them. It's great. I think it sounds like a great use. As a avid crappy golfer, it would be really helpful for me, personally. But in all seriousness, I think that, we're going through the dotting your I's and crossing your T's, more of a not showing our excitement for you, because we really appreciate you wanting to do business here with us. So I have no further questions.
I'm just gonna throw something on Dave said, which I think we covered, is that, there were some noise issues before. Sounds like you're aware of it, sounds like you're preparing to handle it. I just think an open dialogue with the neighbors if there are questions and stuff, which again, an experienced business owner, I'm sure you'll do, but it actually happened for a while, and then it took a while to resolve and seemed to go away, at least the complaints did. I'm not sure if it was 100% resolved in the
As
end.
long as those band members aren't golfers, we're okay.
So that would be my only piece is, just our appreciation of your awareness of that and just working with the neighbors to
Yeah.
coexist peacefully. Do you have anything, or?
When do you anticipate opening?
If Janet can push that liquor license, as soon as we get the liquor license.
Great.
So it just depends on how quick. 30 days would be nice.
Great.
Yeah.
Love it. Well, yeah.
Well, I
Thrilled,
don't-
thrilled to
I-
have you in there.
We need to come back on the 4th for the common victualer's license anyhow, so it wouldn't be before we have that license in place.
Our real date is like November 18th is what
Yeah.
we're hoping for.
Mid-November.
But,
Great.
this all depends on the state, I believe.
Well, hopefully they'll move it along, so looking forward to it, and really thrilled that you're interested in the property and doing something really, really good with it, so.
Thank you.
I will open it up to the public for any questions, comments, concerns. Sure.
Are there any plans to do anything with the old theater down there?
Not at the moment, no.
I have an idea. Brew pub in there? Brew your own beer down there?
Not at the moment, no.
All right, just think about it, you know?
We've got your hands full right now. Any other comments, questions from?
I think it sounds good.
Thank you.
We have people say their names and
Yeah.
address, so I know who's
Oh,
speaking.
sorry.
Okay, maybe Mr. Dawes. but-
I'm sorry?
Just state, anybody state your name if you're
Oh,
gonna
Doug
speak.
Dodge,
so we know.
Dodge Avenue.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, one more comment, if I might.
Absolutely.
To the applicant, our police chief's here. It might be a good thing to introduce yourself and get to know our police chief a little bit, especially your son in the back, if he's gonna be involved, just in case. You know, I think it's a good thing to introduce yourself and get the lines of communication open right from the beginning.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Any comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the transfer of the liquor license from, I want to get this right now, Rock Pond, Coach's Pub, do I have that right?
Coach's
Coach's
Locker
Locker
Room.
Coach's, yeah,
LLC.
okay, to, going to,
Trying an agenda, dude.
Clifford
Yeah.
Olive,
yeah, I'm trying to read it, I can't
LLC,
even read it.
DBA
Yeah.
Par 97.
Par 97.
Terry
I
out
wish I could
Clifford
shoot a
manager.
97, you know that? I can't even get close. Anyway, so that's my motion, I guess, Mr. Chairman. With a two-sentence description on question number 20 of the application, to be given to Janet to be added to the application.
Is there,
Can I just clean that up a little?
I was gonna say, is there a second to that
No, I
creative
know, I
motion?
got-
You got most of it
I
there.
hacked it,
Mr. Chair,
yeah.
I move that we transfer the all alcohol license from Coach's Locker LLC to Clifford Eula LLC, DBA Par 97, with the manager of Terry Clifford at 206 West Main Street, Georgetown. Also submitted with the filling in of number question on the application.
20, question 20. All right, we got it right now? All right, I'll second Phil's motion.
All right, motion second. Any further comment? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Great. Thank
right.
you. Good luck.
Thank you, good luck.
Really appreciate
Looking forward to
coming
it.
town.
Do you want to entertain the,
Steve, do you wanna take
there's also an entertainment
Oh, yes.
license?
Yeah, actually.
Oh, you're here, we might as
Oh,
well.
do we have that on
I
here?
will entertain a motion. Are we giving a new one, or are we?
The amendment?
Automatic license.
This now, right?
Automatic amusements, that one?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve a automatic amusement license for Par 97
Second.
We have to have a time to expire.
with a expiration date of
It would be
December
31st.
12/31/2013.
Motion on the table.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? This is the golf, specific to the golf, right?
Yep.
Can I ask you a question about this?
Sure.
If by reason we're not open before the end of the year, does this $200 carry over to the following year?
Unfortunately.
Unfortunately, no.
Because we'll do the paperwork, but it's up to you to make it happen.
Just asking a question.
I don't blame you.
Those
Good
roads don't
question.
pay themselves. But unfortunately, no.
Okay, move forward.
Move fast.
Price of doing business, I guess.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All in favor. Thank you again.
All right, gentlemen.
All right, great.
Great start.
Thank you.
Wish you guys a lot of luck. down
Yes,
there.
good luck.
Thank you,
Looking forward to
Counselor.
it.
Okay, on to our next and final public hearing.
Cancel.
That has been canceled. Okay. All right, under new business, we have a Country Gardener's Proclamation. So, are we voting to accept this at this point?
accept it or?
Read it, and
Read
then
I was
it.
gonna read it. Do we need to vote on it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Usually you do.
Accept the proclamation.
Okay.
some members here.
Oh, great. Are there some members from the Georgetown Country Gardeners? Okay, great. You guys can come up.
Come on up. We'd like to know who you are, and the town would like to put a face to all the work that you guys have done out there, I'm sure.
Introduce yourself.
Okay, I'll introduce myself first. I'm Deb Falcinelli. I live at 37 Adams Road in Boxford. I'm the current president of Country Gardeners Georgetown. I've been the past treasurer for 4 years, and I've been in the club for 6 years. This is Shirley Ann Robbins. She's been in the club for
Over 30 years.
over 30 years, and we'd like to represent the club this year for this proclamation.
That's great. And can you tell a little bit about the projects you work on in town for everybody to hear about?
Okay. Our first project eons ago was the Civil War Monument, and that has since dropped and changed. But presently, we do the window boxes in the spring and for the holidays. We do the town hall decorations on the library and the police station and the fire station and town hall. And we designed and planted the plantings at town hall. We've done the library just recently. We do Mary Nichols Mini Park, which is the little park in front of the town parking lot. And we plant the flowers at Harry Murch Park. And I think
And we also do the Welcome to Georgetown
And the Welcome to-
sign, and we also are responsible for the wall along the town hall, the Center Street wall.
Great.
So those
You guys are busy.
plannings
Yes,
that we do.
Well,
We
thank you
also are,
Yeah, I bet everybody appreciates what you do, but they might not appreciate the effort that goes into getting it done. They probably just notice it as they drive by, so thank you for that. So with that, let me read this proclamation. Whereas Georgetown Country Gardeners was founded and established in 1953, and since that time have been providing service to the town of Georgetown for 60 years, and whereas in that time they have been an involved and dedicated committee in the town of Georgetown, contributing to the civic beautification of the town by providing service and the tender care of plants, trees, and shrubs. And whereas in 2013 the Georgetown Country Gardeners are celebrating their 60th anniversary of that organization. And whereas the town of Georgetown is extremely grateful to the Country Gardeners for your dedicated service to the town. Now, therefore, we, the Board of Selectmen, do hereby call upon the citizens to observe the month of October 2013 as Country Gardeners Month, and ask that all citizens be cognizant of their dedicated service. And then in witness thereof, we have this. So,
Mr. Chair, I move that we accept the proclamation on behalf of the Board of Selectmen to the Georgetown Country Gardeners.
motion and second. Any comments?
Great job.
Other than a great big
Thank
Thank you for
Thank you.
all your efforts.
Absolutely. Congratulations on 60 years of doing this and continuing
Thank
that
you very
going. It's
much.
hard to keep something going that long. That's fantastic. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank
All
you
right.
very much.
Thank you.
Actually, you know what?
Thank you very
We can,
much.
now, do we get a
Let them
copy of
take
that?
it.
Yes, we're gonna,
Yes, we do.
If they
Sign
sign
it.
it now,
Sign
you
you can take it with you.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you.
I'm gonna stay for this.
Good, good. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Have a nice evening.
Appreciate it.
Okay. Next order of business is the request to hold Horribles Parade Saturday, October 26th at 1:30. And let me just read this, that for the Georgetown residents, Halloween Horribles Parade, march in the parade, watch the parade on Main Street, and join the festivities at American Legion Park, Saturday, October 26, 2013. So I'll accept the motion, then I'll give the details.
I'll make that motion to approve the Halloween Hobbles Parade, having judged it the last 2 years.
You're just like into the creative motions
I
then,
know.
aren't you? All right. Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. So the 1 p.m. check-in and line-up at the high school. You'll be given a number and checked into the contest, entered into the contest. 1:30, the parade kicks off. And 2 to 4:30, there's a party on the lawn at the park. The parade route is Main Street to American Legion Ballpark Field, led by fire trucks and a marching band. And costume judging and trophies awarded on the baseball field. And music will be provided by DJ Scott Jones. Food for sale, free goodies, and vendors. So attend if you can. It's a great opportunity to celebrate the Halloween holiday. Okay. Chief, how are you?
How are you tonight?
Very good. Got a few things, so I'll let you run in whatever order you want to run.
Yes, sir. Good evening.
Good evening.
I have one appointment before you tonight that I'd sent a letter, and it's actually a reappointment. Former Reserve Officer Eric Cochran was employed with the Police Department as a Reserve Officer starting back in 1993. And due to his growing family and some job constraints, he did resign his position in good standing back in 2010. So he was able to serve almost 14 years with us as a reserve officer, a dedicated reserve officer. He's currently a full-time Salem State University police officer. They have a full-time police department at the university, and he works full-time for that department. He approached me with the desire to come back now that his family is stabilized. I think you stopped having children, right, finally? And he's anxious to get back to work. He's fully trained and certified coming into the department. He's trained in our weapons and all of our tactics, as well as the taser that we carry. So this is a very easy fit. I actually went into the equipment room and found his old hat, his old gun belt, and he's ready to go. So with an appointment, we're able to put it.
Fit.
It does. Yes, believe it or not. So with that appointment, Eric grew up in Georgetown. He attended the Georgetown school system, resided in Georgetown. I actually worked with him for many years as a patrolman myself. I trust his integrity, and I trust his professionalism and his skill set. And he now resides in Methuen with his family. So I respectfully ask the board to reappoint him as a reserve officer here in Georgetown with a term to expire on June 30th, 2014.
So I entertain a motion to appoint Eric Cochran to the position of Reserve Police Officer with a term to expire June 30th, 2014.
Yes, sir.
So moved.
Second.
Question and second. Any questions? All those in,
Welcome back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good to be back.
Well, we haven't voted yet.
Thank you.
great. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, now it's official.
Now it's.
Thank you. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Right.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. All right, brother.
Thank
Thanks for
you.
coming in.
And welcome back.
Welcome
All
back.
right. Take care. Just 3 other agenda items. I'll be quick. The solicitation bylaw, there was some questions concerning when it will be put forth for use at the PD, and we've come up with a date of November 1st. I'm working with Janet's office to get that on the website, and then I need to formally initialize a policy. Sergeant DeJoy will be in charge of the permitting process. We just want to make sure when we're collecting the fees and so forth that we do it appropriately with the treasurer's office. So our anticipation of kickoff for that is November 1st. I also want to bring to the board's attention, I've been doing some research relative to joining NEMLEC, the Northeastern Massachusetts Law Enforcement Council. I have some pamphlets here for you to take a look at. The reason for this is twofold. I don't know if the board's aware, but we did not receive the SRO grant that I was so eagerly anticipating. The only 2 communities in the Commonwealth were Amesbury and Tewksbury, and they had many, many more substantial problems in their district than we did, so I think it was based purely on need. There was $44 million available at the federal level for that grant. although we lost our grant in 2009 as a position of layoff, we just were not able to get that grant. So I need to somehow create a fix for some school resource options. I'm doing that on patrol, but there's a portion of that pamphlet, if you take a look at that at some point, a program called STARS, which is a school threat assessment program, and being a member in the NEMLEC Council affords you all of their expertise as well as a regional response, as well as counseling and so forth for students and teachers and law enforcement in the event of an incident or a critical incident in the community. I met with the superintendent. She's also brought that particular portion of the program to the school committee. It's a $4,800 fee. I'm trying to get her to split that fee with me so that I can do it within budget with the police expense line item and pay for that this year and get some valuable resource training as well as some threat assessment needs that we could get some assistance with on a regional basis versus just trying to go at it alone. And from the list of participants, you can see there are smaller communities in there that have their own school districts that are members of NEMLEC, Raleigh, Wenham, in departments and agencies in comparison to size, and some of our local regional school districts are involved in it. There's a mutual aid agreement that you would sign. I'm at the research level right now. My hope is to bring back to you the agreement, but I wanted to give you information to take a look at in case it prompts any questions, and that you're aware that I'm out there asking questions and doing some research on that.
Is the $4,800 an annual fee? Is it like
It is.
annual dues?
It is, and the component of that is the training that they'll provide in school threat assessment. That will be my focus. There's a SWAT component to it, an SRT, a specialized rapid response team. But the STARS program is what I'm focusing on so that I can have a component to deal with our school district and the lack of that SRO police officer and program. We're still servicing the schools as we said we would intend to do, but this would just specialize it a little more, and it would bring that insurance policy in the event we need some help. And then if you see in that pamphlet and the information that I provided you, the local control component is important. Georgetown's an independent community. That's what we like about Georgetown. You still remain very much in control of your assets and in control of your incident in the event something does happen. So I thought that was attractive as well. You don't pass the reign over to someone else and lose control or autonomy of what's going on within your own school district. And there's a collaborative between the schools and the police department.
So would we be responding at all to other members at member towns?
Well, and we do now with regard to mutual aid agreements in Vapor in our immediate area. This would be a specialized response with an officer that would be trained 8 hours a month in the event they need assistance. But there would still be that duty response as well. That's correct.
Okay.
Ask a question, Mr. Chair?
Sure, absolutely.
So regarding the school resource officer, so we lost the funding for it from the grant.
Yes.
And this isn't necessarily going to pay for the SRO, got that, but what it will provide is some really good best practices and trainings and the threat assessment, as you
That's
said,
correct.
which is fantastic. I love to see that. What's the plan for next year for the SRO without the funding? And how are we planning on covering some of that?
Well, what we do now is we utilize duty officers for that component. And we're stretched thin, there's no doubt about it. That's also on my agenda relative to the reserve coverage and the scheduling. We've been extremely busy with retention. Of the 5 reserve officers that we hired, I've lost 3 to other agencies. That's an issue that I'm bringing before the personnel committee. I was before your board relative to some changes that need to be made in those positions to attempt to retain these officers. Another issue that we have is the fact is that just filling vacancies. You know, we're an aging department. The full-time staff has contractual time off. There have been some exorbitant sick calls, and we need some type of mechanism by which we fill those vacancies. And being a reserve officer is a very difficult job. It's probably the most difficult job on the department. High demand, low pay, availability on a minute's notice. They work full-time jobs as it is, and then they come in and supplement that that job with working for us. And we have reserves working 5 or 10 extra shifts a week, a month. So they're working additional 80 hours above and beyond their regular job. So we need to somehow balance that. I've got some data that I'm going to pass out for you to look at. But getting back to your question relative to the SRO, I have to do it in piecemeal. I have to do it based on the availability of the day shift. We're covering each school in the morning. I actually have a sergeant who comes in early on his own time and covers Pearly School. It's somewhat of a dedicated thing that he's done at no cost. I hope he can continue to do that for the rest of the year. Thank you, Sergeant DeJoy. But
See him every morning.
Yes, he's there, and it's good dedication on his part to do that. There's been a bit of a population shift over in that area of town, so he's taken that on as a volunteer for that particular. He comes in before his shift and does that. And we're continually assessing the needs of the school. I meet with the superintendent on a monthly basis to assist them with their crisis manual and provide them best practices.
Right.
And I think the STARS component will allow us not to reinvent the wheel with other districts.
Sure.
And it brings the schools and the police together a little better, as the SRO program did on a daily basis. At least we could do it on a monthly basis and regionalize that concept a little bit, and maybe get a little more out of our resources.
What's a budget for the minimal coverage, per se, for having the school resource officer program? I know there's a nice to have, and there's what we could afford.
Well,
But what's the basic funding?
The base salary for a full-time police position is $59,700 salary, and then there's a fringe component in Mike's office. So when I write a grant with the Department of Justice, there's that fringe component that I have to include for town hall. And then the base salary that comes out of the police line item, the salary line item, is $59,700 plus any afforded overtime or other vacation coverages. We've done it on a reserve capacity before. The problem with the reserve capacity, it's not the same person. It's a rotating officer, and you just don't get that continuity that is so critical in that particular position. And that's why the SRO was such a successful program back in 2006 to 2009. Technically 2004 when the grant paid, but then when we were paying for it. So you don't get that with that reserve coverage, and then basically it would be by the hour on a reserve shift.
Okay. So ideally, it would be one full-time equivalent.
Yes. Okay. One FTE.
Okay. Thank you.
And just with regard to the scheduling component, the SRO, it's all kind of encapsulated into one issue. I will have a pending retirement in about a year and a half, and with that, my goal is to go to Springtown meeting with an attempt to put someone in the academy to begin the process of replacing that individual, as we did before when Chief Mulligan retired, so that we're not paying, as Mike said, 150% for having coverage and the person in the academy. We have the person in the academy and there's no vacancy yet. So I'm going to respectfully request we begin that process. Looking at a 5-year plan, which I plan to submit to you in December. To me, the budget season starts tomorrow. It seems like it's looming for the next fiscal year. I'm going to include a 5-year plan that will include some of those replacement officers, because then there is another retirement right around the corner with the same component of having somebody available and ready when that vacancy occurs, so that we don't have to pay twice, we only have to pay once. And that, my hope, is to deal with in the next fiscal year budget process. Project updates. The septic system is completed at the Public Safety Building, and included with that, we worked with Mike's office to save some money on some paving. There's some drainage issues within the fire department and in the parking lot of that, so we've taken some funding from that. It's all paid for. We're going to be able to pave and fix those drainage issues, so we've kind of got a 2-for-1 there. And the CIP locker room separation for male and female officers is now 90% complete. So that was a very important initiative that I felt was in dire need over there. It worked well since 1993, but we're now sight and sound separation for males and females, so that's exciting at our level when that's done. And the only legislative issue was the solicitation law, and for Springtown meeting, I'll be bringing a civil fingerprint bylaw to your attention that needs to be passed for all of the licenses, including that ice cream vendor license that we spoke about last year, and some of the hawkers and peddlers license. The law has changed in 2011. These folks will have to be fingerprinted, and we need a bylaw. Although there's legislation in the Commonwealth for it. You also have to have a local bylaw, as we spoke about in the last time I was before you. And that's all I have. Was that fast?
That was
Pretty right to the point.
That was great.
Right on target.
All right, well, thank you. And
Thank you.
we'll, I know you are extremely good at planning and future, looking at the future, so we're looking forward to seeing.
Yes, I'll get that
how it's
5-year
gonna lay
plan
out.
to you, and I'll do it before the budget season so that you have a chance to look at it when we delve into the figures for the next fiscal year.
Perfect.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you, as always. Why don't we do the Wheeler Brook Farm conservation restriction? Welcome back.
Thank you.
We have the right document, I think, this time.
Yes.
Good.
You should.
Georgetown Financial Share is on there, so I saw that right on the cover, which is great.
I'm sorry, I missed
The,
that.
our part of the 150,000 there is right on the
Yes.
front
Some of the
page.
funding questions from the
That was
previous
the
meeting.
question from before, so that's great.
Yes. Yep. So yes, we are finally at the stage of signing the Wheelerbrook Farm Conservation Restriction. This has been reviewed and approved by the attorney at the Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs Division of Conservation Services. It's also been reviewed by an attorney at the USDA as part of the Farm and Ranch Land Protection Program. And it has also been reviewed by Town Council. So at this point, the signatures left on the document are the approval and acceptance by the Georgetown Board of Selectmen. Acceptance because Georgetown will be co-holding the conservation restriction. After that, it will go to the Secretary of the Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs, and then it just needs to be signed by someone at the USDA. And then we can finally go to record. Are there any questions?
I'll open up the board for any questions.
I have some. On section 4A, it says farm conservation plans shall be developed by the U.S. Department of Agriculture and Natural Resources Conservation Services. Is that plan in place yet, or is that coming post-signature of?
There already is one.
There is?
Yeah, the Morehouses have been getting one for quite a few years now, and it's updated, I don't know, every couple of years, the farm conservation plan. I know it was just updated this past year because I have a copy of it. And then, what this says is that with any future farmer, they will also have to get a farm conservation plan.
Okay. I was just curious because it asks for type and number of animals that are permitted on the premises and all that. Just curious. I had a number of highlights, so bear with me. I had a question on the septic system on number 18.
What page are you on?
I am on page 9, I'm sorry.
Okay.
And I'm not sure if I'm reading this correct or at all, but about the third or fourth sentence down, it says no feasible alternative site exists within the currently existing parcel of 57 Jewett Street for septic. So in the event that septic needs to be replaced, where would you be putting septic?
Well, ideally, they would replace it within their currently existing parcel, which is not within the conservation restriction. But if there isn't room, or if there's some reason why they can't put it in their existing parcel, then they are allowed to put it in the conservation restriction
They can.
area.
Okay, I was just
Yeah.
concerned about that because it didn't necessarily state that was the case. And I just want to make sure they weren't signing something that they were locked out of being able to address a septic issue in the future. And the way I read it, it says no feasible alternative exists. That's the way I'm reading it, unless I'm incorrect.
No, that's correct. So if they are unable to put it within their existing parcel,
Then they will be able
then
to.
they will be able to put it within the
Okay.
CR. Yeah.
Just wanted to make sure because that was definitely a big one for me.
And on page 10 for D, if they want to do pretty much anything that's in A, B, or C, they just have to give Greenbelt 30-day notice. Is how I was reading that, correct?
Yes.
So for pretty much anything they're doing on site that's, and Mr. Morehouse is very clear on that?
When there is advance notice required.
Yep.
Which there isn't for a lot of these.
For most of it, right,
Right.
but if there's
But
any
if there
material
is,
change or anything like that.
Yeah,
okay.
then that advance notice is required.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Bob, you're aware of that? We hope? Yes? He's smiling. Okay, just want to make sure. On page 11, which was continuing on D, it's the last sentence says, the grantee's approval may be withheld upon determination by the grantee at its sole discretion. That the action as proposed would be inconsistent with the proposed purposes of the conservation restriction. What is the grantor, i.e. Mr. Morehouse and his family, what is an appeal process? I don't see an appeal process anywhere in this entire document where Greenbelt has rights to go in, sue, whatever they need to do, but I don't see any appeal process in here unless I've missed it somewhere. But I read this thing stem to stern 3 times today, and I'm just concerned that there isn't an appeal process for the Morehouse family if there is something that's going to legal, and that's going to be a legal issue or a potential legal battle. And again, it's already been signed. I'm just bringing up some points that I had some questions on and concerns. Is there a legal, some kind of, I didn't see an appeal process anywhere. I know within the document it says that if there are any legal fees that Greenbelt incurs on any legal actions that the landowner or the grantor, which is the Morehouses, end up having to pay those.
That's correct. That's the way the document is written.
So there is not an appeal process other than a straight legal action by the Morehouses if something comes up?
Yes. That's my understanding of the way it's written.
That's what they've agreed to.
Yeah, I just.
Is it okay?
No, he's asking, is there an appeal process written into the document for you and Nana? If Greenbelt were ever to have an issue come up legally?
Nothing written, but I think it's a discussion. It starts off with a discussion. And if it's not resolved, I think then Greenbelt would take some action. That's the way I understand it, and it's.
Okay. I know you've signed it.
Not necessarily adversarial.
Right.
It could get that way, but that would only be if it was, I think, a gross infraction.
Exactly. All right. Grantee and obligations. Sorry, I don't mean to hold you guys up. The only other, looks probably the second to last question I had was proportionate value. I'm on page 14, D. It doesn't state anywhere in here what proportional value is for Greenbelt, for what their proportional value is. Unless I've missed it, and I don't know if I have or not. But I didn't see a proportional value anywhere, and I don't know if, is that based on maybe the funding on a ratio based on what the dollars were for Greenbelt and the town and everything else?
Yeah, I think it's described in B. If I'm understanding your question right, B above, the grantor and the grantee agree that donation of the CR gives right to a property right immediately vested in the grantee with a fair market value that is at least equal to the proportionate value that this CR bears to the value of the unrestricted premises at that time. And is that what you're asking?
Yeah, I
with
just
sort of
wanna-
the definition.
Right, when, in D there, in the middle part of it, it says grantee on a subsequent sale, exchange, or involuntary conversion of the premises shall be entitled to a portion of the proceeds equal to such proportionate value, and I just didn't see a definition of what proportional value was in the document.
I think that refers to what's defined in B. So the proportion is the proportion of value attributed to the restricted portion versus the unrestricted
The unrestricted.
portion. Yeah.
And then that gets split between the parties, basically.
Yeah.
Okay. I was just concerned that it didn't really define what that percent breakdown might be for the town, for Greenbelt, and for the Morehouse family or whomever.
Oh, I see.
That was my concern and question about it.
I would imagine that it would be, based upon the contribution of the town versus.
Yeah,
the
and as
contribution
far as,
of-
that's how I was presuming if it went, that's how it would go, is
Mhm.
how much money the town put in, and then Greenbelt and,
Yeah.
and the, obviously the US federal government.
Yes.
Okay. All right, that's all I had for questions, thank you, and appreciate your time.
Sure, thank you for taking such a careful reading of it.
Had my lawyer hat on this morning, not that I'm a lawyer.
Any other comments or questions? You got a lot of competition to keep up with that, Gary.
I started reading it and said,
He fell asleep.
I understand from what I think Janet explained to me today, because we have not done anything on the bonding and the financing, is that Greenbelt is gonna cover this for the closing, and then we're going to,
We're working on the bonding at this point. The bonding, all the paperwork is through. I think we're waiting on one thing from the CPC to get back to bonding council. And then we'll
Bond
move from
council
there.
looked at our original submittal, and they came back with 3 questions, 2 of which have been answered, and we have one final explanation. It has to do with the CPC's spreadsheet, and you all had a chance to discuss that at last year's budget process. If you remember, this body had a tough time following that, and bond council had an even tougher time, because when they actually put paper to pencil and checked the addition and subtraction, it was wrong.
It's a fuzzy map there.
The hairy math?
The math was wrong.
Speaking of the microphone.
And they need to
I said that.
adjust that.
so will we be having something come before the board, like 2 weeks from now, if they're planning on closing on the 21st of November?
It's unlikely.
So will you not be closing?
Give me an extension.
Because I thought that this had to go through by this date for something to do with the state grant or something.
The deadline from the state's perspective is November 1st, so we sincerely hope that the bond funds are available by November 1st.
But that doesn't look like it's gonna happen.
It's unlikely. It's not impossible, but it doesn't look like we could do it in that short a period of time.
So what's the
Because they have to
implication?
go out, they have to get the approval, then they have to go out to market.
Yeah.
And that, so,
Is it my understanding that once we get the green light letter, that they might be able to borrow that money from the general CPC fund and then reimburse it? Because it sounds like the odds of getting that money bonded in time for the closing is unlikely, I agree. But my understanding, talking to Jackie, is they might be able to borrow it against CPC. All we're waiting on is that bond council.
okay, I haven't
council
had
letter.
that conversation
Okay.
with Jackie.
Well, that,
She
she
was
mentioned
out last week.
if we get the bond council
Yeah.
green light letter, they can pretty much right away immediately borrow the money from the general CPC. And when the
Okay.
bond actually comes through, reimburse it. So there is a chance, might be more likely with that information. And again, so that was my hope, that we get the letter, say, next week, and can borrow against the general CPC.
I would hope with all this work that goes into it, and obviously due diligence and the process is the process, that we figure out a way, assuming we know the funds are gonna be there to make this work.
It's quarter of my job these days is trying to close this out.
Can I just ask a process question, Mike? So if given the fact that there is a chance here that the funds won't be available, what is the implication if we vote and sign an agreement tonight on this? Does it matter? Or is this just, you can't complete the transaction until the actual funds obviously are there?
If I might answer that, we can't close until the
Unless
funds are
we-
there. So
right.
we just hold on to this
Okay.
until,
Right, just want to make sure. All right?
Yeah.
All right.
Do you have more?
I started reading this. Is there, you gave us some exhibits, recorded plans. Is there sections on here that's for farming and other sections that are conservation?
in terms of what's allowed and not allowed?
Yeah, well, on.
Or you mean on the
page
property?
4, if you go on page 4 of the first section, okay, and this is prohibited and permitted activities. And in section 9, is that prohibiting the parking and storage of motorized vehicles of any nature or kind?
Yes, the way.
And so where are they gonna park their tractors?
The way a conservation restriction works is the first section essentially takes away every right on the property, and the second section
Okay, I know
gives
this is-
Then they add it
certain
back.
of those
That's way-
rights back.
That's
Way in
way,
the back.
that's way back in there, okay.
Yeah.
And so in those, so that's the plan that you were talking about, I take it, Stu,
Some of it.
that some of the planning that's there. Because
But I had
like noticed
questions on
there's-
that one.
You know, there's no dumping of grass clippings, compost, and I thought,
Huh?
you can't spread manure on a farm?
Right.
It got me the first time I read
Right.
through
Yeah.
it too.
And then you.
And
But it
I
addresses
I
it.
just stopped reading it, I says, you're gonna explain it tonight, I hope.
It adds it back in and towards the back.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's why I didn't ask the question, because I finally got through it and found it, so.
I don't think I'd have a job if we just took everything
Well, I know
away.
you're very restrictive, and I thought, well, but then I did get to the part about the, you know, having the plans and that. But,
Yeah.
okay, I was speaking a little loud because I know Bob's here.
I was looking for that you weren't even allowed to view it.
Thank you.
Okay.
There's a lot in that.
Any other questions? All right, well, first of all, to echo what Stu just said, there's a lot of effort and work and time that went into this, so definitely appreciate all that piece of it. So at this point, I will entertain a motion.
Sure, I'll try it. Mr. Chair, I move that we accept this submitted conservation restriction agreement dated 9/25/2013 between Robert N. Morehouse and Barbara R. Morehouse as trustees of the Morehouse Realty Trust to the Essex County Greenbelt Associated, Inc., and to the town of Georgetown for the conservation restriction on land located in the town of Georgetown, Essex, Massachusetts, Essex County, Massachusetts, containing approximately 18 acres and shown as conservation restriction area on the sketch plan attached hereto as Exhibit A.
Second.
Motion and a second. More discussion? Good. All those in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Great.
All right.
Thank you, everybody, and, you know.
We need to sign it?
You raise the red flag if there's a finance issue on this. I mean, I know you got people, good people already working it, so.
We're working on it. Mike's been very helpful.
Yep, I'm
coordinating
sure.
stuff.
But hopefully, it all comes together like it has to.
Would you guys mind signing?
Nope.
While we
Bring it
have
on.
you?
Let's do it. While the
If
pens
you
are still
actually
warm.
just Print your name below the signature line, that would be great.
And also, Steve, you don't mind signing my notary book, just as the chair? That'd be great, thank you.
Come on, it's your autograph book, isn't it? You can tell me the truth. Where am I signing?
Top, next to the red flag.
Phone number? Oh, sign or
I'll
signature?
take care of that. It's just the town hall. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Almost there. Almost there.
No,
You're
one
gonna
less.
miss coming to these meetings. Come on.
I'm gonna find
You're
reasons
gonna
to
be
come
hanging on
back.
Monday night saying, well, what do I do?
I'm working on that. Got a couple more projects brewing.
While you're signing that, I'd just like to thank the board for supporting the preservation of Brook Farm.
Absolutely.
For the front office and Steve Pazinski been very big help. And of course, Vanessa Johnson from Greenville. Greatly appreciated.
Thank you for maintaining a great resource.
Yeah, thank you for all you do.
We couldn't have done it without you.
You could have done other things with the land, so the town will appreciate it in the future, I'm sure, Bob.
All right.
I'll make a copy of it right now, and then we'll give it to you tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Good night,
Thank you all
Vanessa.
very
Thank you.
much.
Welcome.
Thanks,
Thanks.
Stephen.
Good night.
Appreciate it, guys.
Okay, on to correspondence. One
Get that.
one piece of correspondence here, an important one, is that there is a fundraiser coming up. It's called Lungs for Scott. And it's a benefit on behalf of Scott Collin. He needs a double lung transplant in order to live. He's 45 years old. He lives in Georgetown, and he works for the Georgetown Water Department. He's been struggling for 2 years from a disease called scleroderma. After 12 months of chemotherapy, he needs a transplant. So there is a fundraiser to help Scott breathe. It is going to be Saturday, November 16th, from 5 to 10 p.m. At the VFW Post Hall, 435 Andover Street, Georgetown. Tickets are $10 per person. There'll be raffle items, gift baskets, and a silent auction. DJ entertainment. Donations can also be made at the Georgetown Bank on Main Street, an account established for Lungs for Scott. If you have other questions, you can contact Kathy Collin at 352-2276. And you can also purchase tickets at the door. So, very worthy cause, and hopefully we can help Scott out here. Can we get that posted somehow? Maybe we post something like that to our website, or is that?
No, unfortunately,
Can't
we
we get-
can't.
Actually, which date was that on there? Sorry, I just
One of
said.
these? Why don't we press-
Yeah, I just
give
wanna
that
make
to Bruce
sure.
So we can get that in the paper for us.
November 16th.
Yeah, November 16th. So we have time. So we'll make sure we get this to our press.
Don't go anywhere.
I can scan it in and send it out to the press, right?
Careful.
Yeah,
Okay,
burn
great.
it.
That'd be great.
I'll
Thank you,
scan it in
Janet.
and send it out. I have their emails.
Perfect. Thank you.
And post it on the TV station as well.
If that's within their policy. You know, the problem is, these are such noble and worthy causes. You do it for one, you gotta do it for all.
No, I understand. Yep, I understand. So let's follow our policy, but in the meantime, we certainly, obviously, can get the word out here and can also send it out to the press.
Is that something you can, is it a document you can email to me?
Yeah, I'll
Yes.
email it to you
See,
tomorrow.
if I get the whole thing, I can just pass it right on to Tim,
I'll send it to him
and then
also.
I can get the dates on, oh, yeah, I wanna get a copy of it myself too.
I'll send it over.
Okay, good.
Great, thank you, Janet. Okay, and then we have a request from the town clerk to surplus 2 computers, keyboards, mouse, and 1 monitor.
This is part of the computer replacement program we're in the first year of. You're gonna see, you know, one of these from every department in the near future.
Okay.
As we swap them out. We're replacing 25 computers this year.
About time.
These are 7+ years old.
Okay.
Chair, I move that we accept the declaration of surplus personal property on the Dell computer, keyboard, mouse, and the Dell monitor as submitted.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any questions, comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay.
Just get one of these signed.
I have original. It should be here.
looking for the original.
Yeah.
Did I just give you anything?
Oh,
I didn't want to sign the entertainment license.
Okay, just jump around a little bit, just on the appointment side, appointments to the Personnel Board. I guess we have one existing or previous member, Chris, and then two new interested parties who have submitted, who have offered interest in the Personnel Board, but we need a joint meeting in order to do that nomination, correct?
yes.
Or appointment, I should say.
Well, the Finance Committee has to meet and vote. They don't have to be here to do it.
Oh, you don't have to do it together. I thought, okay.
Well, one of generally, the chairman will attend this meeting and cast the vote on behalf of the committee.
Okay.
But they'll have taken the vote prior.
And the town moderator would be at our meeting too as well?
Yes. Now, the Finance Committee didn't have a meeting this month, so they won't meet again until the middle of November.
Okay. But, and regardless, we can't move forward until they start the ball rolling.
Plus, they need to make their own nomination for the representative from the Finance Committee to the Personnel Board too. So they can do both at their next meeting.
So can we just send a note to them requesting that they put this on their agenda?
Absolutely, yes.
When's our next meeting after the 15th? The 15th,
4th of November and then
18th.
and the 18th, and then December.
So the 18th might be too early. No, we could do it the 18th, right? If they meet on the 15th.
If they meet on the 15th, depending on when their meeting is.
Shall we try to plan on that? Right?
Yes. And I think, I mean, they could try to hold a meeting before then, if it means getting the board back in working order.
All right, worst case, then we can at least put it on the agenda for the 18th and have them be prepared and ask the moderator to come and.
Absolutely. See if we can get some resolution here.
Do we have the correspondence, do we have the letters from the individuals? I thought I saw an email for one, but I
have emails from.
can you resend those out, Janet?
Sure.
Okay, so I know you guys got 15 more minutes in you for our favorite topic, the DOR recommendation review.
We do.
So I want to keep trying to make progress on this, and we are on the finance section of recommendations. I'll be honest, if you have it, page 20 is where I'm looking, and number 20. And number 20 is require departments to submit all contracts. So Mike, can you talk a little bit about what the expectation would be here and what the gap is?
Well, as part of our procurement process, anything that goes through the procurement process, we know we need a contract, and it's the smaller services and smaller dollar amounts that actually, and I think I pointed this out at a previous meeting, our auditors are actually spot checking now. They just started last year to make sure there are contracts with vendors of anything over $5,000.
Okay.
Actually, the state raised the total to $10,000. You don't need a procurement process, a bid process, until you hit the 25,000. So you've got that $15,000 gap that people are purchasing things. They could be purchasing things without contracts. the stopgap measure is Mary doesn't pay a bill unless she gets a contract. So, unfortunately, sometimes it's after the fact and we have to go backwards, but that's the stopgap method, not measure right now.
Okay.
Until we get everybody trained.
What's, is there an amount for signatory authority on any contracts that, if it reaches a certain threshold, it has to be signed by the town's procurement officer?
Well, actually, I can't sign contracts, only the selectmen can.
Is there any contract between the town?
Yeah.
'Cause we don't sign a lot of, I mean, I don't see.
Well, like I said, you see everything over 25,000.
Right, but I know there's a lot more that aren't.
Well, they don't get contracts.
So can we have anything between 10 and 15 come to us? And if it's
10
after
and
the fact,
25.
it's gonna take some time.
Between 10 and 25.
I'm sorry, 10 and
Yeah.
25, right. So, I mean, it's part of the motivation.
We're supposed to anyhow,
Yes, you are.
and that's not happening.
That's correct.
Okay.
And then- but
So what are we doing about it? What are we doing about
Well, can we
that?
take that immediate measure that?
Well, like I said, Mary doesn't pay the bills.
Okay, so that's happening now.
Yes.
Okay, so she's the check and balance right there.
Yes.
Got it.
And those come in front of us.
They will come in
They
front
will.
of us. Okay.
There's not a lot of them. You know, most of them are, under 5,000. There's not a lot of big ticket items that we end up purchasing.
So is 10 our new limit too? Do we have anything local that makes it smaller, or is?
I'll have to check our policy. It used to be 1,000. And I'm not sure. I think we de facto been following the state limit.
Yeah, I don't want to. I don't think that we need to be signing $1,000 contracts here when I have a $23 million budget in town.
Right.
Right. I
And
could
you don't
write a
need a
purchasing card if that's the case.
Yeah, and you don't need a contract at that level. You just need to follow best practices and at least get 3 prices. They don't have. They can be verbal, but then you have to document that you got 3 verbal prices.
For the 10 range, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So if they do the work and then they invoice and then after the fact they do a contract, is that contract still coming to us? It has it been, I guess, is the question, or?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, so they're not just getting stamped.
No,
They're-
it
it's
doesn't
going-
happen a lot.
Right, right.
It had happened in the past.
Okay. So this require departments to submit all contracts does happen now as part of the invoice process.
Yes.
So no invoice gets paid without a contract in the right appropriate range.
Yes.
Okay. So we can go call the DOR and say 1 down.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I'm still just not clear. So what amount are we agreeing upon that we're going to sign a contract as a Board of Selectmen?
From 10 to 25.
10 to 25?
And over 25 too, right?
Oh, yeah.
So
25
10
is
above.
automatic.
Right. 10 and above.
Okay, good. I just want to make sure I'm clear.
And that includes the schools. Says it right in the comment, including the schools. Do we really want to be looking at anything under $25,000 for the schools? I mean,
Well, it doesn't say we have to sign them, it says it has to be a contract. So the
Right,
school
well,
board might be able to sign them. They just have to have a contract, right?
The school committee
That's right.
approves the individual bills, and then you sign the warrant over their signature.
But we're not signing the actual contracts.
No, you're not.
Right.
And
DOR doesn't suggest that we sign the school contracts?
well, they're saying that. I think you'll get a heck of argument from the school committee.
It's a bigger issue.
Yeah.
That was in part of the recommendations, was to centralize procurement anyhow, as a whole, right?
Yes.
So, we'll have to bring that up, and we have some.
Where does it say that they want us to sign it? Maybe because all it says is all departments, including the schools, boards, and who enter into contracts or receive grants, must submit them to the accountant's office. It doesn't say. It's not a procedure for who signs which contracts. So I'm saying, as long as the
Yeah, that's why I don't believe you need to sign. You're not supposed to sign school contracts, but
Right.
Mary needs to see a copy of one.
but there should be a contract
Yes.
signed.
Yes.
Or
And she
approved.
does see the contracts because we pay the bills, or she is just seeing the invoices?
I don't think she gets the contracts from the schools.
Okay.
So that's something that we've got to put in the potential to discuss further.
Call the DUR back. We're only halfway done now. Okay. Okay. Review and approval of vendor bills. So, Mike, can you summarize where we are here?
Well, this is, as far as I know, this is being done.
Okay.
I mean, the planning board reviews all their bills. I know the Conservation Commission does theirs. The only one that does it and shouldn't be doing it is CPC. They have no spending, other than their own administrative costs. They have no spending authority. The spending authority is given by town meeting to the agencies or departments that are being granted the money. But there is a duplicative effort, an extra layer of CPC oversight, and it generally, ends up delaying the payment of the bills by at least a month, and if they don't get a quorum, longer.
So, by statute, what you're saying is the CPC does not have to get a bill paid, CPC doesn't have to actually sign anything.
That's correct.
Okay.
On behalf of another department.
If they've allocated the funds to another department and that department has incurred the expenses and been invoices for the bill, the department is the one who is supposed to sign for the bill and look any contracts through us, but not the CPC.
Correct.
Okay.
So is this just a matter of information sharing with CPC and the other departments so that they understand about this?
It's territorial. Let's face it. I mean, they want some oversight to see what they're giving out, and by law, they don't have to. And based on each department that works with the CPC and takes money, if they're having issues with it, that's one thing. But I don't see too many departments having too many issues with it. But it's got to be a standard process and accepted policy that we need to share with them. Maybe they're not aware of it. Maybe they are.
Well, we can make them aware of it.
Sure.
If I may, I am your representative there now.
There you go, Gary.
If I may.
Represent away.
Well, I asked about, one of the first things that we did, on the first meeting I went to was the approving of bills. And I asked, how the money went out, and as I understand, some of it goes out as a grant to certain ones, I guess. Correct me if I'm wrong, or if there's anything wrong with this, that, because not everything goes through a town board and that. So I guess those things go through CPC, and I guess some of that they just give out and they're to spend the money, and I do believe CPC does have a tracking method. But then there are others that, they come before them, and I guess there have been some complaints of things being slowed down. As you say, this is all recommendations. I guess the DOR, we want to think that they're right, but I don't know if it's anything that, have you anything from council on it or anything of that sort?
Statute.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Statutory.
So perhaps if you, Mike wants to make it clear to me, I can try to take it to CPC and.
Yeah, actually, Gary, maybe that's a good way to do it. Maybe you could show them this paragraph, let them know we, talked about it and just want to understand.
And I can have some follow-up from legal counsel as well. To back and bolster
It's
that
not, it's
position.
not their administrative expenses, it's things that are voted at town meeting.
Right.
And if there's, and that says specific, who's to spend the money.
Mhm.
Once that's done, this is what, at least that's what this comment's saying, is that that doesn't have to go back in front of CPC for the final expenditure. There could be grant agreements in place, because I know on affordable housing, we have to have a grant agreement that says, this is what we're using the money for. That means, once that's in place, we could go directly to the town accountant for the money, rather than go to CPC to approve it again, because it's already been approved at town meeting.
Right.
Well, that's basically what they're saying.
I guess there's sometimes when not, as if you read this, it says falls within a department or a board, but not everything falls within that.
Well, the only thing
It
that
would
would,
go to a historical commission.
yeah, well, they're,
That's-
Department or a board.
yeah, they're a commission,
I
they're a
don't think
board.
they are a part of a town government.
The historical committee is, but the historical
Still-
society is not.
That's, yeah, so I mean, we've got, so,
But
Well, someone is accountable for giving them money.
I guess that's a part I'm not,
So someone,
It's gotta be a
when it's
town
approved,
committee.
someone is approved to expend the money. And I think the key is that if it's not specific to the CPC, once they get approval, they can spend it. In essence, because no one probably gets the cash first, right? They probably sign a contract, get an invoice, and people are probably going in front of CPC and saying, is it okay if I go spend the money now? And they don't have to, they can skip that step and just go and spend the money because it's approved, and then can take the invoice back.
Well, not only that, but yes, that, and then secondly is what the statute is saying is that once the money's spent, the board, the committee that spent it, doesn't have to get approval from the CPC to pay it.
Right. They just take the invoice and
We
send it to
have a
processing.
payment procedure.
They would get
They
that.
get the money from the treasurer, or the authority to spend the money, and then we spend it. We don't give out cash grants to anybody. They still have to submit bills.
Right. That's what I mean, it's not
And
like a
have
cash
contracts
advance.
in
Yeah.
place for those.
Right.
So the problem we're trying to solve is to accelerate the payment of monies from bills. That's the problem statement, right?
Right.
Okay.
Well, and I think we're also trying to align responsibilities. So this goes to the whole government structure piece. Who's responsible for what when, so that we don't have people overlapping on responsibilities.
Sure.
But the practical outcome of any time there's overlapping responsibilities is usually delay. Like you said.
And the DOR is saying, yes, they should track the spending,
Right,
but they
absolutely.
should track it after it's been spent, not before it's.
Okay. Well,
And currently, that's not, it's the other way around.
Correct.
so Gary, if you could kind of if you could talk to them, I mean, because they could say, okay, no problem, right? And so if that's the case, then we're
I
good.
will
And if they
try
have a
to
question or
pass
pushback on
on
it,
the
then we can
information.
have a discussion, right?
I will do my best, Mr. Chair.
That's usually very good. I'll take that every time. Remove original or copies of invoices from warrants.
I'm at a loss to explain this
I didn't get that either.
because I look at every invoice when I sign the warrant. Some are recurring, as you know, and it's, but the non-recurring ones I look at.
And, okay, so we don't know what this one even means.
Yeah.
Well, I think
Save paper?
it's probably an indication that they recognize the limitation of us mere mortal selectmen, that in terms of reading through everything and understanding everything, where you're the professional, right? So, you know, you understanding the details is extremely important. We need to understand it, but it might be easier for us to understand if there were a description versus, you know, 10 pages with line items or something like that. And I'm not saying it's okay, I'm just trying to look at it from their point of view, saying, you know, for people who aren't professional accountants or professional town employees, something that is more digestible, because they don't know the background of the selectmen, just in general.
Yeah, we're speculating. We have no idea what their
Right.
recommendation's for. I mean, I could give you 4 other reasons. If
If
we
I
want to
may.
save paper, what's that?
Yeah, because you had asked about this, Gary, about reading the warrant
if
before.
Perhaps we as selectmen could do some type of a workshop on a few of our policies and procedures. And I think this would be a good one to at least go over a best practices. I don't know if Mike or Mary want to try to explain everything, but I mean, it is part of the job that really, I don't think has ever been explained, and we've sort of do it weekly, but we've never really gone over what's the best practice on it. And at least if we did something of that sort, then we've got that down there.
Okay.
So that when we are doing it and coming in, being asked to sign it, well, we know that we've at least reviewed it somewhat. And if we are happy with saying, Mike, you've looked this over, we trust in you, and that's what comes out of the workshop, well, that's the best practice.
Well, I also think too, we're trusting a series in an accounting chain.
I
right?
agree,
You know, it's,
but-
so when, so I agree in terms of
I
it
don't
is a
think
responsibility.
I mean, it can be an open meeting, but by a workshop, I mean, I don't think that those things need to be done here on camera. I think we are
Right.
allowed at times to have workshops to go over
And
policies
more
of that type.
educational for us and/or do we need to
No.
adjust what we do? Okay.
I think there's a few other things we could maybe include on that someday, but we can talk about them at another time. We're on this, so.
Okay. So I'm gonna take that, just kind of the feedback here is something we could potentially get better at in terms of a confidence level from the selectmen as to what's in there, potentially, something to discuss. And it could be done in a workshop, educational format and review format.
Yeah, because you have the department head approving the purchase. You have Mary reviewing it before it gets entered, and then you have me looking at it at the end. So,
I mean, I'm thinking, do the analogy for a business, there is a point where all the detail doesn't go up the chain for signature, that there has to be trust in the process. But Gary, to your point, understanding the process a little better, so you can, in order to trust the process, you could probably know the process a little better. And understand, you know, that was the first thing when I came on, I was, you know, asking, what are the controls that are in place, who approves this, who approves that, so that, to understand the process of what the controls are. And really, it's about the trust in the process, which you need to know well to trust. So, okay.
and the issue with payroll,
So just develop
everybody
standardized
does their
payroll
own
cover
thing,
sheet.
as, you know, so many things are done.
You
Light
don't have like a
department,
standard
the
time
water
card?
department, everybody, and, you know, police, fire, they're all different. They all have their own methods. You know, we have a payroll person that can cipher it all.
Does the Munis have a payroll app?
Oh, they do.
And we don't use it?
We do not.
Okay.
The school uses it. Town doesn't.
So, if I may, would
Is that a
give,
training issue? Sorry.
Yes, it is.
It's also an adoption issue, I suspect, too.
Yeah.
would there possibly be any cost savings to the town if everybody was using the same?
I think in efficiency, yeah.
Data analysis and reporting as well?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think some of the things we've heard, you know, I think maybe there's 3 or 4 of operational changes that let's say we agreed on 3 or 4 operational changes. We then have to go through the process of how we enforce those operational changes and educate and train and enforce. And I think we're gonna, rather than solve them one at a time, I think there's probably gonna be a group of them that says, here's the change that's happening, how do we actually implement or inflict the change, depending on how you're looking at it. Right, because these are tough. It's tough to get entire groups to change on process. This is something that everybody goes through. But we ultimately, as the board, have to understand our role in creating that change and enforcing that change. And I don't think it's something that's done that often. Usually it's done internally. You know, either, you know, Mike either sells it or doesn't, or another person sells it or doesn't, and it's not necessarily uniform adoption. So I think it's something worth looking at in general.
Is this a type of thing, Mike, that in the future, just like you had the procurement seminar, that you could get somebody in here to go over this with department heads and that sort of thing, and at least get the
Well, as
feeling out and the.
as was mentioned earlier, it's as much a training issue as it is a procedure issue.
Yeah.
We have and we had an initial well, it wasn't, it was part of an analysis of the payroll process. We got the school together with the town, and I think the water department was involved, the light department was not. So we've had the analysis, now we just have to put the process together.
And if it's funding for training, maybe it's something, a warrant article brought before the town that approves X dollars for all these departments to move to this process. So there's not only verification of the funding, but there's kind of a statement from the town that says, hey, we're expecting you all, we're gonna pay for it, we expect you all to cross over this process.
Well, a few years ago, I was able to get it's not a separate line item, but within the administration budget, we have at least $3,000 a year for training, Munis training.
Right.
So,
Okay.
Are we using it?
yes.
Right. Well, I just think if there are, and we have to look at these changes carefully, if we do decide there is some group of changes that requires a set amount of money to occur, you know, I also think stating what it's for and bringing it from the town is kind of a message from the town that says, yeah, everybody, let's get on board and do this. So, anyway, we're in the spirit of we're trying to discuss this and share information, let's keep moving, where we can't solve all the problems yet. Why don't we do one more, number 24, and then we'll start up on 25 in our next meeting. This is develop a monthly cash flow budget.
I get cash flow from Jackie, so I'm not sure.
I would think, or else you'd be sounding the alarm pretty quick to us.
Yes.
We haven't heard any issues.
Particularly with the school involved and the other bonding issues, but more so with the school, because we're gonna start spending millions a month, and she has to have the cash flow.
Have you looked at the one, the sample one they're giving you? Maybe they just feel like we're not doing enough detail?
No, I didn't look at the sample, and that's a good point, Dave. I mean, hers is very general. I mean, she knows, and we get once again with the school, the DRA provides her with the cash flow.
Yeah.
And she has to figure that in with the regular town expenses as well.
Yeah, I mean, I would take a look at the cash flow report that they're using as a sample.
Yeah.
Looks like it's just a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, can I make a comment on this, the overall financial management review? My concern is that we're going through these, we're making notes. I'm a list guy, you know that. I mean, I think people kind of know that. Where's the list? You guys keeping a master list on what we've discussed on each individual item? so that we can put, I would maybe ask Mike to put an action plan together for each item. Doesn't have to be crazy, crazy detail, but at least with some, we're gonna look at this in the short term, long term, each individual comment. This one's done, this one's passed. So we have a master list of, we can sit here and talk about all this all we want, but are we following through?
Right, well, so the plan was to go through it first, because there was a lot of information.
Right.
And then from there, based on your feedback, I was gonna sit with Mike and kind of group things based on what was said.
Okay, all right, well,
Low, hard, easy, medium, important, less important. And then from there, we'll discuss it, we'll agree that that's the task list, and then we'll start working at it.
Okay.
But
Well, that's
where it
fine.
was such a large list, I thought it behooved us just to go through, and also for the public to hear it
Right.
as to what's on this list
Right.
and what's important, potentially important or
So
potentially
you
less
guys are
important.
keeping a running notes on each individual question and what we, discussed, and then maybe we'll develop an action plan from there.
Right.
All right, well,
And
that's-
we'll
that's
review
fine,
the action
sure.
plan, so I'll take a shot at organizing it with Mike,
Running
and then we'll
notes.
go,
Yeah, I
we'll
mean,
go through it.
everybody has notes, but I'm thinking, we're doing all this, and I'm thinking, okay.
Yeah, this
like,
section.
We wanna talk to CPC, so there's a good action plan, Gary's gonna get that one done, but.
My concern was sometimes we jump right into the problem solving, and they are, when
I'm not
there's-
suggesting that, I just wanna
Right.
make sure we're keeping track
Right,
of
but if you have a
everything.
list, that implies you have a solution, so it's kinda like, I
Well, at least a
think-
list with the comments.
Right, so we're gonna do the list, prioritize, because there's so many, and see what we can get done. But it's a good point, we're not gonna just let it lay after this.
Yeah, well, that's the point. I don't
So,
know. Make sure we get
are
something
we
done.
are we going to have a series of public workshops to go through our recommendations based on the DOR's recommendations? Because my thought is that we would go through this, we would have a chance to kind of internalize this, we have a chance to internalize this with each of the different departments, and then we would go to the town with some of the recommendations on prioritization, solutions, what we feel is achievable and what's not, and what time frame. I think this is a little bit bigger than what we're looking at.
That's my point, to your point. And we need, in my opinion, we need to involve the finance committee on this too. That's why they're there. Finance and advisory. So I think they need to be, once we get through all the comments, then we bring them in with us and go through this stuff and say, okay, let's talk about prioritizing, let's talk about if it's reachable, it's not reachable, short term, long term, who's gonna do it?
Well,
On
there
top
needs,
of it,
I would
Right, right.
suggest also there should be a subcommittee on this to make this thing happen, or else we're just going to be doing this 30 minutes every 2 weeks.
Well, that's my fear, is it is.
But we're doing the right thing in
Yeah, I
just terms of
understand.
getting
No,
out.
no,
We're
it's-
taking
So
our time.
my
but-
fear is that
Through the
subcommittee,
document
so
right now.
when we started this, my fear is that subcommittees have failed miserably.
Yeah.
So
I'm not
I
into
started
another
this goal
committee.
with, my personal goal that I put out there was no subcommittees, because it just doesn't
Right.
work.
Let's
There's not,
get the
people,
two
we have
big-
trouble filling our committees, and I agree, dedicated is better than us doing it, but my concern is, so it slows us down if we do it, it can come to a grinding halt if a subcommittee does it, but I do believe that there may be sections where we wanna carve out and say, we need someone, or we pick an existing committee, to say, can you please process this? Because we can't do it all, but we need to organize it, prioritize it, and then in terms of public, hearings, if we're gonna make a bylaw change or a government structural change, it makes sense to do the public. If we're gonna make a reporting structural change, I think the public really relies on us to do that.
Cash flow report doesn't need to go in front of the
Right,
public.
so I think that's what our next step
Right.
is, after getting the input and kind of doing a no pressure, let people share their feedback. And I know some of it is very low priority, and that's bogging us down.
Yeah.
Come back, prioritize, see what should go in front of the public before town meeting, because everything major will go in town meeting. What maybe do we need to assign to another committee? Who do we share with on the, such as FinCom and others, and then the action plan.
Could you put a timeline together for us? Because I think that we're going through 4 more years of this at the rate we're going. And no offense
When's
to
the
you.
springtime meeting? May. That's the timeline. In my head.
So we're going to backwards plan from May.
Well, not for everything, but anything that's gonna go in front of the town, other than, there's a charter part in here, right, that's a 2-year process, so that's a different deal. I'm talking about other processes. My goal, my personal goal, would be to, anything that we think we're ready, we think deserves change,
Yeah.
we have ready for Springtown meeting for the town to vote on.
Well, that's fine. I think that they.
Good to have goals.
it's good to have goals, but what's the purpose of making a town change based on everything else that's in there, right? That's kind of how I'm looking at it.
Say that again?
We're not looking to, we wouldn't be looking to make a change in the management structure until we prioritize what needs to be changed and why then we need to change a form of government if we even decide to do that.
Right, which is our next step. So we have 8 more recommendations to go through, I think, 9.
So that's 6 more months at the rate we're going.
Well,
I'm not being busting your butt here, but I am. I'm just
We're
kind of.
2/3 through this.
Yeah, we have
I
9
mean,
more
we
to go.
And some of
just
these are really
started it,
easy. Some of
but-
these are really easy, like changing the days on the accrued interest on
Right.
the water bills. I mean, pursue collection remedies. These are internal staff stuff that we can get done.
So I think there's a number that are gonna be really department, internal employee driven. That's, it's a part of them running
Well, that was my point.
their
of trying
town. That is gonna be.
I don't want to rush
some
this.
feedback.
I definitely have been going with the flow because I think it's very important to go through, and I like the process you're going through. I think a time frame would be helpful,
So-
and what's the end look like for us, right?
So I think time frame for any public changes would be May, is what I would like to see happen. And then during that time would be any actions internally that have to happen. That would be my personal goal to try and drive here. Because I think, a good example is, we tried to accelerate, I think, a personnel board decision. And we ran into a lot of complications from doing that. And I'm not saying we made the right or wrong decision, I'm just saying it wasn't, it does take time to vet out some of these changes and give people a chance to process how this works. And that was kind of my learning there in terms of going through that.
So can we just establish a short-term goal to have all these comments reviewed by no later than end of November?
Yes.
Just a short-term goal.
We can do that.
I think I'm going to throw this red flag out there, and you guys can beat me up all you want, but I think that you're a year ahead of where you think you're going to be a year behind in your planning, meaning that.
Explain.
It's going to take to go to town meeting with our recommended changes. If I'm a taxpayer in town and I'm a voter, I want to know not just what the change is and why we're doing it. What's the plan going forward with that change? What happens?
Right.
And we don't have enough time we need to put some sort of a summary of a long-range plan together that is the whole purpose if we have to, or we don't have to, change our form of government. It's what comes first, the long-range plan of the town or the change of the government. And I think it's the strategic plan of the town for at least the next 3 to 5 years as opposed to 20. I'm not thinking that. And then what do we need to actually execute that? What's the government, what do we do, what don't we have? What's our gap that's not going to get us there if we don't have the right structure? Then that's the reason for the change, as opposed to, let's make the change and then let's implement all the changes. I'm just throwing that out there.
But I think we can also look at it if something is functionally broken without a strategic plan. In other words, you can tell if an operation isn't operating the way it should be. There should be a plan as part of that process, but it's not. They're different, and one is, the charter is a different thing. That's a very much bigger issue with the strategic plan part of it. Yeah. But in my mind, there's things that we can look at that we need an overall plan, but it's, I think we can draw enough analogies to see if certain parts aren't working. Or we could go through and say, everything's fine, and it could be really quick.
So if I can break up this little tiff, boys.
Where's no tiff? We're gonna hug.
I'm just shedding a little levity on the situation. The bottom line is, I think we have to prioritize, or at least classify what's in this report, meaning these are operational changes.
Yeah, A, B, C, D.
This is something that's potentially town meeting. That's why I was talking about the list, to say, categorize stuff. I think that list that's going to go to town meeting is a lot smaller than you think, other than the government structure issue.
Which is
that's the big one. But to change the way we accrue interest on water bills, additional training for Munis, go into a payroll for Munis, making contracts come to the town accountant instead of, those things aren't going to be around. Those are operational issues and management issues for us to decide, and bring in the proper boards that they affect. So that's why I'm saying, I'm trying to get a sense of classification here. And I think the town meeting stuff is not going to be as large as you'd think, other than the one big issue of structure.
Right.
So we can, and I think that's a very aggressive situation to think, we may have to go to, the spring. There may be a
Not
couple
for
of
the
smaller
not
ones.
for the not for the big.
Right,
structure.
there may be some
That's
small, let's
not
see
gonna
what it
be
is
spent.
first, and then I would
Right.
agree to.
Because the reason is, because originally I sat with Mike and Janet and we talked about is that I didn't want to prioritize stuff
Right.
without hearing from everybody first. Because I might say, well, that's easy.
So we
right? That's
gotta
quick.
speed up the hearing.
And then
Yeah,
someone else
so this
would
is
say,
getting through the first, and then we gotta break it
Yeah.
apart.
Can I
Sure.
say, you know, you gotta remember, that you gave us a date of, you hope to be done with this, what we're doing right now by November.
Yeah, there's only
I don't see not
10
being
more.
this. You gotta remember, we didn't really start this till September. I mean,
Yeah.
we've had this since February, but we didn't really
Right.
get seriously into this
Right.
till September. And I think we've made some process going through it, what we feel we've had, what's important to us. And
Yeah, there's
so I'd
only-
say let's continue with
Yeah.
what we're doing, and hopefully
done
then
in-
after your dateline of November, your
Done at the end of
challenge.
November.
Right.
I know, there's not that many left.
You know,
It's not that much left.
I got you, but we go into budget season and the other departments, it's gonna be very difficult to get time with them and just more, you know.
I think
I don't
when
be
we
the naysayer, I just wanna be
Right,
realistic.
when I think when we
agree.
see the classifications, like Steve says, okay,
Yep.
these are the easy ones, these are the, these may have to go to town meeting, then we'll have a good idea of what a timeline really looks like. If we can just establish a short-term goal of having this done by the end of November, comments, you know, and then a list in our hands, the first meeting in December, everything prioritized, or at least classified, not
Right,
prioritized.
so that we can then
classified.
review them and say, yeah,
Like, here's
These are
management,
easy.
here's
move in
structure.
that
These
bucket.
15, we can boom, boom, boom,
Here's the
boom,
easy
boom,
bucket,
done.
and then we work with
Yep.
Mike and the departments
Right.
about making the
'Cause that's
internal
gonna take
change and all the
resources.
pieces of it. Right.
That's gonna take- it's gonna
And then
take
Phil, to your
a
point
lot
is
of
then we
time.
have to resource it correctly, because we're not, this group is not going to be able to affect everything, or even a fraction of everything.
Okay,
Let's
good.
remember, somewhere in here, it said that, you don't know how we're doing it, but we're
doing
doing it.
pretty good, right.
So, you know what?
Because these are these are recommendations.
There you
know,
go.
From
We're
an
reviewing the
outside-
review.
From an outside body, and we're the inside body trying to see what makes sense. Absolutely. All right, we're fired up. I'm keeping you here to 10 o'clock. We're going to finish this thing.
Let's get it done tonight.
Let's do it.
All right, so we will finish this by November. I think that's a good date, Dave. We got basically two meetings. No, actually, yeah,
Two more.
Two more meetings.
two more meetings. We
Yeah.
can do this.
We should just, yeah, should be
We can
easy.
do this. No problem. No problem, man. All right. Where's my agenda? Now I'm all befuddled. Mike, anything from your end to report?
Well, I gave you all an email on the free cash.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Great.
That was a pleasant surprise.
You just tell them.
Share it with the town.
$734,000 this year. I think last year we were at 699, and I keep telling you it's
Yeah, it's
going
gonna
to
go
go
down, right?
the opposite way, and it keeps growing. It's just good
It's a
management.
good problem.
It's good management by the department heads. You know, we haven't created a use it or lose it mentality. They do try to, you know, make the best decisions for the town and not for the department per se. Our revenues have, I mean, we've been very conservative with our revenue estimates, even though we've been increasing them annually.
Yep.
You know, so that's been working. Our one thing that keeps I know assessing, Jay tells me, you know, they come up with the new money every year, and for the last 3 years, with declining values, at least the new growth has increased by at least $100,000 in actual revenue each year. That's pretty good. He keeps looking underneath, turning over every rock he can. That's the, keeps telling me he's running out of rocks to turn over too, so, because we haven't, although we do now have a major development in town, we should see some, you know, depending upon how far along they get by April 1st, you know, we should see, you know, some visible new growth out of that. Just by the fact there'd be cellar holes and basements, that's new value. So that's you know, we keep moving in the right direction.
Great job on collections too, by the way.
Yeah, treasurer's office just, you know, they're 99% every year.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal, really. So as far as finance is concerned, we did, we're moments away from starting the school, the construction. It won't stop it, but we had a bid challenge with one of the subs, the fire protection. We had a hearing at the AG's office. They're the ones that handled construction bid challenges. And we're waiting. They didn't they didn't notify one of the vendors who actually didn't have a chance to come to the hearing, so they're keeping the decision open for another 2 weeks until the vendor can get their input to the hearing officer. It's not a major issue, but it's an issue, and the school building committee's aware of it, and I just wanted to make the Board of Selectmen aware of it too. It could change the budget by $100,000. $100,000 is a lot of money, but as part of 26 million, it's not. But they're taking it seriously, and
What's the challenge? I'm just not familiar with this whole bidding
yeah,
thing.
well, the fire protection, the subs were given directions to include hooking into the main water. And, well, at least that's the way one of them read it. And they gave a price with that extra work.
Okay, so it might be a different bid on different
They weren't
specific
bidding-
scope.
they weren't
The
bidding
scope
apples.
interpretations may
Yeah.
be different, okay.
But every other vendor
Got it right.
got it right. This guy got it wrong. But in the same time, the general didn't include it in his bid. So we have two bids that neither one included the work. So somebody has to do it. And it's either a change order.
Yeah, well, that's the point.
Drives the cost of it more than $100,000. So in the long run, well, the AG will decide, you know, whether we followed our process correctly or not.
Is that on the OPM?
No, it's on the, well, the OPM oversees.
That's why we have them.
But the
GC.
the designer put together the bid package.
So how much are they responsible for that?
I don't
If it
think-
goes, if the AG finds that they didn't submit the scope properly or whatever the issue is, how much are they on, you know, one errors and omissions policy or something, how much are they responsible for
I
that?
would have to look into that.
I think we should. I mean, we, you know, change orders are one thing, but, you know, we pay people to do a job, and
Yeah,
again, I don't know the specifics, but I would be a little bit concerned, either that or it's just somebody that didn't understand it and things will go our way. That's for the AG to figure out, but.
Especially since two others got it right.
Right.
So were they not tying into the main, water main? For the fire?
Neither one of them had it in their proposals, the general and the low sub bid.
But yet we have to though, right?
Oh, yeah. Somebody's got to tie it in.
So that was an omission basically, in the bid process.
So it's not an extra cost for the town, it was its cost that was omitted.
Yes.
That was gonna just
Yeah.
have to be
It was
incurred,
just a
and the
complete
question is
mess.
now the secrecy of the competitive bid process is kind of blown from that perspective in terms of adding that cost in.
Well, you go to the next lower bid.
Right.
Next higher bid.
Higher.
For the next person that includes that
Yes.
scope. Right.
Mm.
Okay.
But the difference, I mean, between the GCs was huge.
No, we could go to one of the sub vendors.
This is the subs.
These are
right?
the subs.
Yeah, you can do the subs, which would be more manageable. Okay.
Sounds to me like the guy who didn't get the contract actually looked at did his homework and said, but you've got to include this, and now we're at the Attorney General's office finding out that his bid was probably correct.
Probably
Because
true.
someone forgot to include it sounds like, doesn't it?
Could be.
Well, and we'll let them figure it out, because you gotta bid with respect, and if there's something missing, then you do it, you know,
Yeah.
so there's
So it was completely off the
multiple
spec, right?
ways to look at that piece of it, but they're following their process.
Yeah, let them
We
figure it
got
out.
enough stuff going on. They're on top of it,
Yep,
and,
it's under control.
okay.
That's all I have for the board.
Great, okay, so, just to reiterate on this financial management review, and we're very fortunate to have the quality of employees that we have and all the volunteers that we have, and I always want to mention, we're not trying to fix a problem government or fix problem committees here, we're trying to look at kind of the next level of where we can take this. I think it's important to mention that, because there's plenty of towns out there that are trying to fix problem governments and other things. We're trying to look at next generation evolution and how what we can keep moving forward, or decide what we have makes sense. You know, combination of that, I'm sure, is probably where we'll end up. Any other comments from the board? Questions? Topics? Our audience, we all good? All right. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Good night.
Thank you, everybody.
I wanna go home.
Don't stop.